Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Apolinski. I am the founder of 3 Dog Right, and I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes or so with you to talk about augmented reality and how you can use it in your trade shows and events. So let me give myself just a little bit of street cred here. So I started off in the trade show management and marketing industry roughly 20 years ago, moved into digital marketing, and I now combine both in my practice. So I look at the face-to-face marketing and optimize that. I look at the virtual reality, the virtual digital assets, optimize those, and then I look at how we can bring those together, if that makes sense. So how do you take your digital, your virtual world and bring it into the physical one to really affect lead conversion and ultimately our revenue stream? 3 caveats I want to make really fast. First of all, I am not a techie. I know just enough information to be dangerous, but I'm just like you. I do not have an IT background. I do not know how to code, but I still think augmented reality can work for people like us. Number 2, I don't sell augmented reality. Okay, I am a trade show marketer and manager, and I'm not here to sell you augmented reality. I'm here to talk to you about how I would use it in terms of an event or in terms of a lecture, conference, what have you, and how you can use it to really engage your attendees. And number 3, I'm talking about augmented reality that someone can be using every day. I'm not talking about Google Glasses. So that's a completely separate topic, and that's a very new and a little more expensive type of technology. I'm talking about something that you would be able to implement in your trade show strategy tomorrow, okay? So anyone who's come to my lectures know that I like to start with some learning outcomes. So we have some goals that we're going to achieve in the next 28 or so minutes and stuff that you should be able to take away with you. First, I want you to be able to understand what augmented reality is and to be able to explain it to somebody else. That's really key. Second, we're going to look over what really makes it a great tool for event engagement. How can we use it in our trade shows and events to help enhance that user experience? And then lastly, there's 3 myths that I've put out, and I picked them based on my own bias from when I first learned about augmented reality, so my own hang-ups, and hang-ups that I've heard from upper management, because that's something else you're going to have to overcome. You have to sell this to the people that you report to. So you have to know what they might come up with you against with some ideas and how to actually talk to them about how to use augmented reality. Does that make sense to everyone? Everyone good with that? Okay. So what are we doing when we go to an event? What are we doing when we have a lecture or a conference or a trade show? The first thing we want to do is we want to bring the attendee or the prospect into our physical space, yeah? We want them to start to engage with us. Once we get them into our physical space and they start to engage with us, then we have the opportunity to educate them. We want to educate them on our products and services, how it might be a good match for them, what kind of information we're sharing to help them make that decision, which ultimately affects their buying behavior. At the end of the day, I know I have to show that what I do produces sales. So how can we use augmented reality to help get us to that lead generation, lead conversion, and ultimately that sale at the end of the day? So when I first learned about augmented reality, I think it was about 2 years ago, I was having lunch with my brother. He's one of those crazy NASA science geeks. He codes, he knows all that information. He's telling me all about augmented reality and how cool it is and how it's going to be so awesome. He's getting all this very high-tech information, and I just freaked out. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, and it sounds frightening. And I just totally shut down. So when I started to really dig into what augmented reality is, because it's coming. If you don't know how to use it, you're going to have to. So it's good to educate yourself and to research on how it's going to work. So when I was preparing this talk, I looked at Wikipedia And this definition really didn't help me at all. It actually made me more nervous. So let me just read it to you. It's a live, direct or indirect view of a physical, real-world environment whose elements are augmented by computer-generated sensory input, such as sound, video, graphics, or data. That's just as confusing, isn't it? I'm like, I don't know what that means. What if I told you it was this? And I actually have a prop, because I like to use props during my lecture. More Magazine, they're starting to use augmented reality in their print ads. I'm taking a physical asset, like a print ad in a magazine before a trade show, a direct mail piece that you send to your attendees to get them to come to your booth, a graphic in your booth. Think you're starting to get the idea? And I'm superimposing a digital asset onto it. That's it. That's what augmented reality is. It's very simple. Physical asset, digital asset superimposed. Okay? Everyone okay with that? Everyone good? All right. So I took some screenshots, and I just want to talk through these so you kind of get an idea of how augmented reality would work within a trade show setting. Now, this is a poster for Kick-Ass 2. So let's say, picture yourself in a mall, okay? You're walking past and you see a poster, and you think, I might want to go see that movie. That looks kind of cool. And at the bottom, you see at the bottom right, there's a little picture of a smartphone with an icon. Okay? If it has an augmented reality amplification, it will have some kind of a tag like that. It'll have some kind of a code. And normally they put it in a smartphone to make it stupid. So you have to have your phone to do it. Okay? So you're walking past the poster, you have your app on your phone, you put it over it, and this comes up on your phone over the image that you're seeing. Now let's look at what it has here. First of all, view trailer, okay? You can quickly look at what the preview is to see if it's a movie you would like to see. Second, movie info. It geolocates you, and it tells you in your vicinity where the nearest movie theater is that's playing this movie, the movie times, and hey, it also gives the option to buy a ticket. So what am I doing when I'm doing that? I'm removing some barriers to the buying decision, right? So if I'm in a trade show and someone is looking at, let's say, my graphic and thinks that's really cool, they could be sending it off to their boss saying, we have to have a meeting with these people because I think this is important that we start to partner with them and bring them in for X, Y, Z. Okay, so it captures that moment and allows them to quickly do the buying behavior. Movie facts. If you want to know who the actors are or who the director was. And then it gives it the rating. Obviously, Kick-Ass 2 didn't do very well, but it gives you an idea of the different types of information that you're able to see. Yes? Yes. 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 Very good question. Yes, you have to launch an app on your phone, and it scans it, and then it brings us up this information. Now this is from one of the print ads in More Magazine, and it's to sell shoes. Okay, so again, if I want to buy instantly, look at that. It gives me the option to quickly purchase. How awesome is that? Removing any kind of obstacle for buyer behavior. Let's say I want to share it on Facebook or Twitter, or I want to email it to myself, or I want to tag it later so I'm able to access it. It gives all that information on the bottom. And the nice thing about the AR technology is you can choose what you want to show. If you want to show a video, if you want to bring up a PDF product piece, if you want it to link to your website, if you want it to first bring up a form that they have to fill out to access information, you're able to customize that. The other thing I want you to notice is it's allowing me to be in the driver's seat of my experience with that product, right? So if I'm in the driver's seat and I'm making it personal, I'm also making it authentic. I've seen authentic interactions all over the place at this conference. That's a huge part of how we can help with our lead conversion, letting our attendees actually drive the experience for themselves. and to be able to pull the information that they think is relevant, to be able to understand our products and services, and then have a higher propensity to actually purchase them. So I took this information off of AR, and I thought it was really quite interesting. First of all, like the one woman asked, you have an app on your phone that you launch to see the augmented reality. So you're already using technology that your attendees have, right? Everyone has a smartphone. I mean, if you go out and watch the Bellagio fountain, they're all like this, right? They're not actually looking at the show, they're looking at it through the lens of their camera. So everyone has a smartphone, so you're not having to actually introduce anything that your attendee doesn't already use. That's huge. Second, because I'm providing additional information in different types of formats for my attendees or my prospects, they have shown that there's a much higher increase of them purchasing the product because they're taking the information that they think is relevant for their buying decision. You're not having to guess. You're providing different options. They're learning it the way they want to. Maybe they want something that's visual. Maybe they want data and statistics. Maybe they want some copy. And you're putting them in the driver's seat, which helps them to get through the buyer cycle and have a higher propensity to convert, which is what we want when we do events and trade shows. The third item I think is really interesting. It's not that the product is more valuable than your competitors, but your attendees think that it does. They have a perception of higher value. And who doesn't want to have someone come into, I would want someone to come into my booth and say, I feel like this experience is more impactful than your competitor. I would love that kind of competitive edge. Does this make sense so far? Everyone good with that? Okay. I am right on schedule. Okay, so let's talk about 3 myths that, again, that you're going to hear constantly. And I actually was talking to someone before I came for my lecture, and this was one of the 3 myths she actually brought up, which I think is interesting. So my first parlay into augmented reality is I thought, holy crap, it's way too complicated. There's just no way I'm going to be able to do this. I don't know who created this, monstrosity, but they should be shot. This is just terrible. So, first of all, your attendees. Let's look at it from your attendee standpoint. They know what a smartphone is. They know what an app is. There's over 900,000 on Apple at this point in time. So, they already have the technology to do this. When you do the screen capture, and anyone who wants to come up, because I actually brought my magazine, if you want to see it in real time, come up after the lecture and I'll show you, because I have like 4 apps now on my phone. When you do the screen capture on your phone, it reminded me of either FaceTime or Skype. Who here has done FaceTime or Skype? Everybody? Yeah. So, it's something that you're used to. You've seen that type of a screen capture before. It's not weird. And you're like, oh, I totally get this. And I just scan it. Totally cool. It's a touch screen. So when the information comes up, let's say I'm scanning something in your booth and it's a graphic and it has video and it has product information and it has data and I want the data. I just tap it on my phone. It comes up, I tap it, and the information is loaded. So obviously very easy to use. And then the final thing, the AR technology companies that are out there, they know that we're not going to want to go to our IT people and say, hey, listen, I know that you're preparing for this trade show, and I have this awesome new technology that I want to use, and just have things thrown at you, right? We need to be able to take ownership of this and be able to handle it ourselves, because we're not going to get the support. The AR companies, they have creator support, they have cloud apps to store your information. For 3 of them, they have drag and drop options. So if you can have your graphic and you can drag and drop what you want to do, you can create an AR printed version. Super, super easy. Okay, let's go to myth number 2. It has all this stuff, it's got to be expensive, right? Totally needs to be expensive. is what I thought. The app is free. So I went on Apple, I saw 8 featured, all of them were free to download. Okay, so again, starting at the attendee point of view, they have the phone and they can download the app. If you're worried about if they're going to have the app, do a pre-show communication piece. Send them a direct mail piece. This would be a great way to test it. Have something like a video from your CEO and tell them how to download the app. Not only are you engaging with them and having the app when they come to your show, lo and behold, I can see who got my direct mail piece and who actually scanned it to watch the video. So you can actually take a piece that normally you just send it out there and you hope to God someone gets it, and now you have a measurable asset attached to it. That's pretty cool. So when I went on AR, they do have a package of 20 pages or 20 items that you can do, or you can do an individual page for $20. So I am not someone who says spend thousands of dollars on technology, because you have to see if it's going to work in your situation. Technology is not an all or nothing deal. You have to see what's going to work for you, and you got to test it. This is a great way to test it. You can do one piece, you can do one piece in your booth, you can do a small package deal, and honestly for $340, that's not too bad for a trade show. Now Mateo has that whole drag and drop. That's a little more expensive, but honestly, if I was going to test this, I would just empty my own garbage and bring a vacuum cleaner, and it would pay for itself. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Yes? This is someone asked me, well, how do you actually know it's going to work? How do you know it's not just another pretty hat trick? We're using a digital asset, right? When we're using a digital asset on top of a physical one, we then have digital tracking. Anybody who is using a digital asset not only should be tracking the data that comes from it, but they should be tying it into your Google Analytics. And just about every single AR company that I researched ties into your Google Analytics. Now, why is that important? Because when you're doing technology or doing any kind of marketing or anything to increase the user experience, it's not a siloed event. We want to look at how each technology, each piece that we does affects the entire lead conversion cycle and the path that people take. So when I do if I was going to do an AR technology, I would want to see what effect it had on my website, what effect it had on my social media, right? And I want to have a complete picture of how that piece interacted with other pieces in my digital marketing strategy to see how it affects and then to optimize it. And the nice thing is you can just add it into your Google Analytics, so there's no excuses to not tracking it. And so what does that do? If we're using digital tracking, we're making data decisions, data-driven decisions, evidence-based decision-making. We're not just doing intuitive marketing and throwing stuff out there and hope it works, right? We're actually using data to further drive our decisions, which helps with our lead gen or lead conversion, and then ultimately the revenue stream. So let's go back to the learning outcomes really fast. So what is augmented reality? What are we doing? We're taking a physical asset and we're superimposing a digital one, right? Pretty easy. That's something you can remember. Why is it a great tool for event management? I'm providing further information in a physical space. I'm putting my attendee in the driver's seat. And I'm ultimately, hopefully, affecting my lead conversion and my sales by providing additional information that they can pull down. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is when they leave your trade show, they can go back through their history on that AR app, and if they go, oh my God, that video was so cool, they can play it again off-site, which means you're now further engaging them while they're home. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that continuous engagement, right? And then the 3 common myths. It's too complicated? No. The technology people have made it super easy for us to use. There's a lot of support, and like I said, there are drag and drop features, so you do not have to be an IT person to use it. It's too expensive. I think I showed that as an absolute no. You can test it and do small tests, and there's no way to measure the results. Well, we know that's not true because it's a digital asset, and because we're superimposing on a physical one, we're actually adding value, I think, because I'm actually able to see, like a direct mail piece, if someone actually got it and interacted with my piece or just threw it away. If you want, you can always follow me on either Facebook, 3.right, or my Twitter handle is Lisa A. Blogger. If you start to use it, I would love to hear from you. If you test it out, it worked, it didn't work, this was awesome, this was horrible, I would love to hear from you. And let me know data too. I love to hear how it affected your lead conversion. I had, what kind of a lift you had. I love to hear that kind of stuff. And I am ready for questions.
All right, just wait for the mic and raise your hand. Who's got a question? Here we go.
What about incorporating the AR with video content? Do you do that?
Yeah, so so the way that AR is supposed to work is if you have a printed version, it would add the video on top of it. So yeah, you could absolutely do that. You could have it where it scans it and it automatically launches a video, which is how I would use it like in a direct mail piece. And then you can also, if you had other things after the video, like maybe a link to your website or something like that, that's how I would use it. It would have to be embedded in your printed version, so it would have to be a graphic that you scan and the video launches. Yeah. That's how I would use it. That would make the most sense, because then you're also able to track who watched your video.
Any other questions? Okay.
I have two questions actually. The first, can it work in a non-connected environment where can you set up a local server that has the assets? Do you know?
That is a good question, and I do not know. I would assume you can, because I know I've pulled down a lot of stuff where I have no Wi-Fi connection, so yeah.
The other question is, I see you mentioned Layar and...
Layar, Mateo, there's Blip, there's Gravity Jack, there's a ton of them out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
We've got time. Here I come. My feet are killing me. You gotta make me all work.
So you keep saying it collects digital data about the person who's accessing the image. What type of data?
So what it does is it tells you how many people have viewed it, right? Just like your typical digital assets. How many people have viewed it, the time of day they viewed it, and then if you add proper source code, which again is really easy because you can actually just hit buttons and source code can be added, you can see where they go to after they viewed your AR, which is huge. So you can actually watch the digital footprint, the digital path of someone. Now, if you're looking to actually capture someone's information, again, I'm using more because they've done a really good job on it. In this edition, they actually have, you can win a trip to Paris. So you scan the article with your Blip app, and then it asks for first name, last name, email. I mean, something really simple. And the reason why I think it's ingenious is, magazines are not only what you get at home. This could be my sister's magazine. I could be in a grocery store looking at it. I could be at a doctor's office looking at it. So it's widening my ability to capture leads and capture potential people that would register for the magazine and actually be someone who would subscribe. Because obviously they're reading it if they're scanning it. So I think that's pretty ingenious. People are coming to that.
So the app that you're viewing it through, is it it doesn't matter what app you have or what the AR was built in?
The asset, the printed asset will have some kind of, it'll either say LAR app or it'll have a symbol, which is why I have 4 of them. That's the only thing that I'm not really happy about is there's no one, it's not like Google Overlord, right? There's no one massive app that everyone's using. Like QR code. And you can actually use the augmented app with a QR code too, which is interesting.
What are you actually building? So I have my movie poster, and then I'm going into one of these apps and dragging the buttons over it.
So when you go on, let's say Mateo, when you go on Mateo's website, and I have only done this in very small amounts, so forgive some of my ignorance. When you build your asset, you have your asset in there, and then if you're as stupid as I am when it comes to coding, you just say, well, I want this part to be the augmented reality, and I want it to go to this video. And you drag and drop that video over, and it does some magic in the background that when I scan it, that portion of it will have a video.